My altcoin portfolio is finally going up, which is great as one of my coins has actually gone up by 200% and I've sold it. So it's time for an altcoin update to see where we stand and what we're going to do. The altcoin portfolio has finally started to go upwards as we went down by more than 70% in the previous 6 months, which is a very tough period to go through, especially if you're holding an altcoin portfolio in which you were expecting a lot to come from it. But finally, the time has started in which we are seeing some upwards momentum, in which we are actually up to less than 40% correction on the entire portfolio. And there have been some questions on the portfolio, on the comments beneath here, which I read, and I answer all those questions, or at least some of them. And one of the questions is regarding the fact of having the public portfolio, whether it is actually my portfolio. And first of all, it's quite hard to sustain the portfolio with all the negative comments that are taking place when I am wrong. Well, I don't know any trader that is right 100% of the time. It is all about making a sustainable ROE over a long period, which is if you're investing into altcoins that are very volatile, you need to accept that it goes down by 70%, which means that at some point it's going to go up by 500 or even more percent as well. But the question that came in was, is this actually my portfolio? Which is it fictive, or do you have the same portfolio? First of all, it is a fictive portfolio. And yes, I also have an actual portfolio that has the exact same balances. For instance, if you have a 10% return on $1 or on 100K, or if you have an allocation of 15% towards a specific altcoin, it doesn't matter how big the portfolio is. But for my safety reasons, I don't share any public wallets or portfolios or exchange addresses, as probably, if you have not seen it, there have been some events taking place, especially in France, when it comes to influencers or CEOs of companies. Well, I'm not the CEO, but I am an influencer, and we run multiple companies where I have a public profile. So I don't want to share any personal data. That's why I said I'm going to do a fictive portfolio which has the exact same percentages as I have. I do the exact same trades. Yes, of course, if I trade it 5 minutes after that I have made the changes in the fictive portfolio balance sheet, of course, there are some minor changes. But in the end, it's the exact same. And ultimately, the goal is to show how you can actually trade an altcoin portfolio and generate a return and help you guys on the journey through crypto. So if you do enjoy that, and if you're watching and you want to continue following it, make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel beneath here. We are constantly improving our content, informative, educational, and as you can see, we've made some great improvements in our studio, and I'm wondering whether you like it or not. It is, at least we are very happy with it, so we're also happy to hear your comments. And if we need to improve anything, let us know. Now, let's have some fun. The markets are going up, which is great. Ethereum is actually at 3.7K in USD. It is above 3K euro, which is pretty vertical for an asset like Ethereum. It is not normal that we are having these type of actions on Ethereum, but we're going to discuss that in a little bit. But usually when the markets turn, they turn so fast that if you're holding the asset, that within a short time span of a few weeks, it erases losses of the previous months, which is why I kept on repeating that I want to be early in my positioning, because Ethereum just ran from 2.5K to 3.7K without any correction. So how are you going to build an actual position if that is taking place, or with any other altcoins that are running away? So we are at the fun part of the cycle, which is the bull market. We are literally at the start of the cycle, and I'm happy to be fully positioned into it, where Ethereum has been outperforming Bitcoin by more than 70% since the low in April of 2025, which means that Ethereum is getting back to the levels of beginning of this year. So if we recall what happened in December of 2024, we peaked, the market started to correct, had nothing to do with crypto. It was primarily macroeconomics driven, and all the crypto projects are getting back to those levels. And Ethereum is the first one, which is just still like 10 to 15% down from those levels. But in the meantime, fundamentally, a lot of progress has been made. We are getting staking being added in Ethereum. In the past 1.5 weeks, we had 2.5 billion of inflow in the ETF. Robinhood is applying tokenized stocks on Arbitrum and ETH, which is basically another positive sign. They announced that during ETC. And the Genius stablecoin bill is adding a ton of liquidity of stablecoins on Ether. On top of that, most of the altcoins are still down a lot. For instance, Optimism, which is still down 75% from the same level in December as where Ethereum is currently getting back to. That means that there are still massive opportunities in the market, a big mispricing taking place, because if Ethereum is going back to the same prices of that period with all the fundamental progress in the same time, there's normally another move up afterwards going to come, which means that we are likely going to get a lot of upside in our portfolio. And in the previous week, we had one coin waking up, and I was actually waking up and I saw it went up by 300%. I couldn't really get all the upside, but at least I've made some profit on that position, which makes me move my portfolio in the sense that I've been rebalancing it, which is the next part of the portfolio. So let's get to the spreadsheet and see where it stands and how it's performing in these type of markets. Let's be realistic, but the altcoin portfolio is still down a lot. We are still heavily underwater. We have not made profits, but at least we're getting back into good momentum, despite the fact that most of the people currently still have the bear market PTSD. So a lot of people expect that all those runs are going to end up by another correction where we're going to make new lows. And that is kind of what the sentiment that we are into right now, where during bear markets, people undervalue the upside and overvalue the downside. So if you would walk around on the streets and ask people about Ethereum, if anybody knows about Ethereum, by the way, then likely people will say, well, it has been going down, so I think it's going to go down even more. Well, if you go back in time and you would walk around during the peak of Bitcoin in 2021 and you would have asked people what their expectations was, then likely it would have been very positive. So during those extreme periods, people underestimate the expectations of the market in the wrong way, which means that likely people are still very bearish at this point, which creates a lot of upside, which creates a lot of liquidity in terms of shorts to be taken out. Now, let's talk about the portfolio. I've made a tweet earlier, which is the more active platform to look at, where I've made an adjustment. As you can see on the screen, I've got the public portfolio in which Omni was skyrocketing, and the valuation of Omni at $4.40, it went way higher, but at $4.40, the valuation became $7,000. And as I've got 5 smaller coins, the other ones were 3K, 4.3K, 3.9K, and 3.6K, which means that I'm over allocated towards Omni. And therefore, I decided to manually, at that point, close the position by half and reallocate that towards the other positions. And as you can see, my math was not really great at 9 a.m. in the morning. As I said, 1,500 into Rocket Pool, 1,000 into Renzo, and 1,500 in Wormhole. And if you're quite smart, then you know that that is 4K and not 3.5. So I've adjusted that a little bit slightly after the tweet came out, in the sense that I've allocated 1,000 towards Wormhole instead of 1.5K. But all in all, the portfolio is 53.6K. And as you can see, the rebalancing is required and is going to continue to be doing that. So what did I do? You see the timestamp here, which is 8:53. I rebalanced it and I've added it towards the mutations, as you can see on the screen. So what we did is we sold off 3.5K in Omni. That equals 795 Omni. and I've added it towards Rocket Pool 1.5K at $6. The question that I've said here, why are we buying again? As previously we have been selling at the exact same level, is that right now we need to shuffle the portfolio around again. So if some asset is actually outperforming the other ones, then we want to rebalance it in towards the portfolio coins that haven't been performing but are fundamentally still strong, independent of which level they are. So in this case, I'm happy to reallocate towards Rocket Pool, as previously I've been selling my Rocket Pool to get into Omni, made a return, and now I'm reshuffling it back into towards the same asset to compound the profits. The same can be seen here on Renzo, where I've bought another one, which is 71,000 Renzo, and here the same for Wormhole. So all the mutations are here, which is great. We can all see what is happening. We have been buying the first Optimism at $2.25, and there is a portfolio right now with the current valuations. It is 10 a.m. in the morning on Friday, where we can see that the valuations of the portfolio is currently 60K. Now, to prove it, we went from 1,556 Omni towards 761 because we have been selling 795 Omni. So right now, this is the portfolio. It is up to 60K. It's nearly doubled, which is great. We need another double to get into profit. And there is a lot of upside that we're likely going to get. So right now, the portfolio is a little bit more skewed towards the four newer ones, as Omni is undervalued. But after such a big move, which we have seen here, such a volatile move, I would like to see the price to stabilize a little bit more. I don't know why this happened. Maybe a whale started to buy in and took out all the shorts. Maybe it's just a very illiquid asset. I don't know. But I need to see price stabilize at a certain price point, and then I'm going to reallocate again to do another run. But for now, I'm slightly over it with Omni having such a big portfolio allocation that I'm expecting way more to come from the other assets in our portfolio, that I'm happily allocating towards them a little bit more. So if we look at Wormhole, for instance, then we can see that on the Bitcoin pair and on the USD pair, we have a big bullish divergence taking place. We saw that on Psy. We held that position. We reallocated Psy into Optimism and into Wormhole. And now I think we're going to have an uptick that is going to be another like 100% move that we can generate the profit from, get us back towards the break-even point, and then the fun starts to kick in. So I'm happy to allocate it to Wormhole. If we look at Wormhole against Bitcoin, then it's even a stronger position where we have the bullish divergence taking place. This is the 3-day time frame where the bullish divergence started from March all the way towards the low in June. And now it's creating higher lows and higher highs, which means that the trend is reversing. The same can be said for AEVO, where we are making a double bottom and accumulating here, which means that once we take these highs out, it is going to trigger ourselves into a run all the way towards 30 cents, which is where I'm going to probably take profits or rebalance. And my actual jewel at this point is Optimism, where, as we call the bullish divergence as a very important technical indicator, we also know that Ethereum is doing great as an ecosystem. So it's very likely that everything that's building on top of Ether is going to go back towards the levels that we know from January 2025 or December 2024. And that means that this is the area around $2.50 that Optimism is likely going to go to in the next 3 to 4 months, which means a triple of the money. So I'm happy taking profits from Psy and Tau, moving that into Optimism, that in that period, if Optimism is the first mover, I'm rotating back from Optimism into Tau or into Psy, or maybe just in Bitcoin and ETH, depending on the market structure. So the portfolio is doing great. We are up to 60K, and I think that we're going to be back into profits really soon. During these markets, I'm always looking for opportunities to build my portfolio, and OKEx is bringing you an opportunity. They are the first fully licensed exchange in Europe with the lowest fees. And to help you a little bit with your portfolio and to celebrate this milestone, they are giving away up to €50 in Bitcoin. if you sign up today on the exchange. Signing up can be done within 5 minutes, and if you deposit 100 euros worth of crypto, you'll receive the first 20 euros in Bitcoin. Start rebuilding your portfolio today. Go to the link in the description or scan the QR code and enjoy up to 50 euro in Bitcoin. It's quite sure that the markets are waking up. First Bitcoin moves, then Ether moves, Aave follows as well, and it's very likely that the money is going to rotate from ETH into the entire ecosystem, or there's more liquidity being added into ETH through the ETFs or from outside of the crypto markets. This also means that the volatility is going to go through the roof, which means that the portfolio is going to go up pretty heavily, but we'll have some very heavy corrections taking place. And that is going to provide a lot of trading possibilities, which is great. It's also good to be entirely positioned into the markets. As we can see, Ethereum is going vertical, and it's very likely that the other altcoins are going to do the same. So then you want to be positioned right now instead of chasing the candles when it starts to go up already. However, when the markets are going to heat up, we are going to take some off the table and go a little bit off into risk off appetite, where we either want to add stables or we want to be in ETH or Bitcoin when the markets are getting a little bit high. Ethereum is the first one to move upwards. After that, the rest will follow through. I think that we are just this far in the bull cycle when it comes to altcoins, and I think that the returns of the portfolio will come in, which means that the risk will start to increase. We need to de-risk, or the higher we go, but the more we get towards those higher numbers, the more fun we will have with the entire portfolio. I'll see you again in the next update on the portfolio. See you.